It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show! It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show!
I didn't even want to do this show tonight, and it's like, it's 4 in the morning, and like, I figured I'm gonna go to bed, and this show, Impact, was so bad, I realized that if I didn't do this now, I was gonna look at these notes and remember how fucking bad this show was, and I'm never gonna talk about this show ever again. So I persevere. My hair looks awful. But, okay. This show felt like it was about 5 hours long. And I think I even wrote a point where I was like, I think this show is almost over. I'll get to that. Okay. If you're not... I'm almost speechless with how bad this show was. And I don't know why it continues to astound me. But it does. And... okay. It starts off with a global championship match between AJ Styles and Rob Terry. And right away, I don't know why the global championship bothers me as much as it does, but it does. Because the global championship is not the World Heavyweight Championship, it is the global championship. What does that mean? Well, it means that Booker T, back in the day, invented the Legends title, which was his made-up toy title, which meant ultimately nothing. But apparently the TNA Championship Committee, and this is kayfabe terms, they adopted it as official. And eventually they stopped calling it the Legends title and started calling it the Global title. The significance of which it has no significance. In fact, means absolutely nothing. I assume it's kind of like the Intercontinental Championship, which in itself also means very little. But it always bothers me, especially when like Eric Young, I think, was the first one to ever hold the Global Championship. And he said that he refused to defend it on American soil, because apparently you just can. But now, Rob Terry has the Global Championship, and my question was, what the hell does it even mean, even when Rob Terry is ranked number 10 in the bullshit championship ranking system? I think AJ is ranked 8. So, like, he's the global champion, but there are still 9 guys above him. 10 if you count Rob Van Dam. I don't know what it means. I hate the ranking system. It doesn't mean anything. It's bullshit. And, like, Rob Terry's not very good. He's jacked up beyond all belief, but he's not very good. And they had like a 3-minute match, and AJ can't work with the guy. They did kind of one funny spot, which I think is the only spot Rob Terry can really do, where like he picks AJ Styles up and he like military pressed him 5 or 6 times. I was like, that was pretty cool, but that's like, he's not very good. Kazarian interfered like 3 times by leaping up on the apron. Of course, no DQ. And finally, AJ reversed a suplex when Kaz grabbed his ankles and held his feet down for the pinfall. And so now AJ Styles is your new global champion. Yay! And Mike Tenay is like, this is utterly ridiculous. I can't believe a championship can change in this manner. And I'm like, join the fucking club, Mike. This show sucks. Tenay promises that Dixie Carter is finally going to have answers for the ECW invasion. But it's not an invasion because she invited them. And Tenay, this whole time, I really got a good laugh about Tenay, because he looked so pissy. I'm sorry, he looked so pissy and butthurt that Dixie Carter had. I don't even know why he's mad, but he's mad. Like Mike Tenay, he's just like he looks betrayed. Like Tenay looks all pissy at Taz and says, I've been doubting you since the beginning of the CCW thing, and I want to know, once and for all, if you knew about Dixie Carter's plans. Like this was some kind of underhanded scheme of Dixie Carter's that he was kept out of the loop, and Taz's like, look, I don't know nothing. Like, this is the first I saw of it. Like, when ECW was coming in, I was like, what the hell, ECW? And, like, and Tenay's like, really, Taz? And Taz is like, what? What? You know? And I just, what the fuck is with Mike Tenay? Like, and there'll be more. Believe me, this was like the first of 5 fucking segments where Mike Tenay and Taz are talking about what Dixie Carter's possible explanation could be for this Machiavellian scheme for bringing ECW into the fucking Impact Zone. Like anyone cares. I don't care. And then, of course, since the stupidity of the whole beautiful people situation has not yet reached critical mass, we go backstage for more beautiful people. Where Madison Rayne and Sarita are talking. Madison says, I can't believe they thought... the whole story is like the identity of the biker chick. And Madison's like, I can't believe they thought it was Velvet Sky because... Have you seen Boobzilla? Like, one's in Tokyo, one's in... I don't know. They just kind of bitch at each other. And, like I said, nobody in the world cares about the beautiful people bitching at each other and breaking up. Nobody cares. They seem to think the identity of the biker chick is some big mystery. And here's a newsflash. My mother already knows who the biker chick is. That's how sad this angle is. When, like, my parents, who barely follow fucking wrestling, they go, oh, is that it must be the brunette chick who got fired, like, a month ago. Is that her? And I'm like, yes, it is. How did you guess? Oh, yeah, here's where it is. Madison says her protests were successful and she's getting her knockout titles back today. So, apparently, in TNA, the referee's decision is not final, and if you protest, you can get your title back. So, hey, Rob, why don't you start filling that paperwork out, because you pretty blatantly got robbed about 5 minutes ago. You know. Oh, and it's taken them like the referee have instituted their instant replay and have determined after a week's careful study that, yeah, they can't prove it was one of the beautiful people, so we're going to overturn the decision. This is so fucking stupid. I can't believe this. There's this weird backstage segment of Dixie Carter yelling at the road agents backstage. Like it's like Terry Taylor, Al Snow, and D'Lo Brown back there. And she's like, what were you thinking? Like, Al, what the fuck were you thinking? I had a quote. She said she started yelling at Al Snow, and she says, "You were punching people. You punched a ref. My God!" And Al Snow says, "In our defense, we didn't know what was going on." And Dixie Carter, in a moment that was kind of like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, she's like, "You don't need to know what's going on, Al. You're management. You're an agent. You don't need to know what... I'm sorry, you know what you're supposed to do. Come on. You don't need to know what's going on, Al." And then the door slams. And I'm like... That explains a lot. That even management doesn't know what the fuck is going on. And yeah, like Al Snow comes out and he's like, "ECW guys, loyalty!" Then we go back to the beautiful people stupidity. Angelina Love and Taylor Wilde against Madison Rayne and Sarita. But first, Earl Hebner rocks the mic. And he said, and I'm saying this in a much more intelligible manner than Earl Hebner managed to say, "Angelina, the board of directors has instructed me, as they have no proof as to the identity of who was on the motorcycle at your match at Victory Road. So therefore, you must surrender the belt, please." And he said identity. I wrote, "This was a really ugly, fake-looking, horrible fight between people who are supposed to be bitter rivals. Angelina wins with a downward spiral." I can't even convey how shitty this match was. Because it's like, you've got people who're supposed to hate each other. And they're supposed to be like tearing into each other. And they stand there waiting to get hit. They kind of putter around looking for somebody to hit them. You know what I mean? It's like the worst ever staged fakey fighting. I know it is fakey fighting, but that's the whole point of wrestling, is that you make fakey fighting not look like fakey fighting. You're not standing there like, hit me with a forearm. And they just kind of waited to be... I said, after the match, the biker chick comes out. And now they bring back, like, the entire women's locker room to establish the fact that it's nobody that we know in the fucking locker room. And, of course, the entire time, Taz and TNA are like, I don't know who it could be. Who could it be? I don't know. Who could it be? And then I wrote down, what was it? Taz says, we don't know who this woman is. I assume it's a woman. Otherwise, it's an oddly shaped man. You never know. I will read that again, because I almost think this was meant to be taken seriously. I assume it's a woman, otherwise it's an oddly shaped man. Never know. So, the biker chick goes to ringside from her motorcycle, and she stands there. And she stands there for quite a long time. And I even took the time to write down, she looks like an alien. Finally, as the winners are celebrating, Sarita and Madison regroup and jump them, and now the biker chick kind of wobbles into the ring because she can't see shit, and just kind of kneels down and starts strangling Angelina Love. And then Madison gets on the bike and calls for the other beautiful people to follow, and, like, Velvet and Lacey Von Erich kind of stand in the ring, and Lacey, like a puppy who's being summoned by two different masters, starts to wander towards Madison, and then Velvet starts calling her back, and she's like, I don't know what the... And then she starts, like, she follows Madison, and I'm so beyond caring. I said, oh, the schism. Next match, Angle versus Hernandez. And if Angle loses, he will retire. I wrote, there's no drama to this match at all because nobody in the world seriously believes that Kurt Angle's career will actually end here. It would actually be a really great swerve if it did, but nobody cares. TNA says that it would be a huge win for Hernandez to be known as the guy who retired Kurt. Taz says, oh, I agree, but technically Hernandez is higher ranked than Kurt, so I don't really think if it's... Sorry. It says, oh, I agree, but technically Hernandez is higher ranked than Kurt, so I don't really think it's of any benefit if he wins. It was a really good match. Angle reversed a stalling vertical suplex in the ankle lock and he wins. Page 2 gets worse. Kevin Nash approaches after the match. He shakes Kurt's hand, gets in the ring, and for the next 10 minutes, I kind of blacked out. Because they started talking, and they talked for a long time. And when it was over, I knew that they had spoken, and I knew that the words they were speaking were in English. But I had no idea what the fuck had just transpired. So I rewound it, and I watched it again. And I still didn't know what the fuck had happened. So I watched it again. And this time, I transcribed the words that they spoke in an attempt to understand what they were saying. I will now recap the events of this Angle in excruciating detail, so you too will suffer as I have suffered. Kevin Nash calls out Jeff Jarrett. And he says, you know, Jeff, you're actually pretty amazing. You almost had me convinced that it was Sting that had left a log in the punch bowl. He said Sting was the guy who had carried him when Nash was nothing, let him sleep in his hotel room when Sting was making big bucks and Nash wasn't making anything. But now he's thinking that maybe it was Jarrett that left a log in the punch bowl. I wrote, I can actually hear the air conditioners working as Nash is talking. Because I could. Then he said a line that I wrote down as much as possible, and I still don't think I understood it entirely properly. He said, you eat a lot of omens? Huh? You eat a lot of omens? I can deal with it. I can deal with it. But you know what? There's a group of young guys back there that look up to you as a veteran and as a leader, and those, my friend, are the victims. And then he stopped talking. And then Jeff Jarrett, he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I pretty much passed out. Because this show sucked. Kevin Nash talked for like 3 minutes. I don't know what he said. He said, I have no idea what you're talking about, Kev. You used your deceit to hurt this company, so you can come out here and spin your tail any way you want. But I know you, and these people know you, because it's been well documented. Now, do I need to go on and explain myself? Yes! Explain! I don't know what's going on. I assume he's talking about WCW? I don't know. I'm so confused. It's like, you know what it is? They really like doing this thing where they come out and they start talking like they're shooting. Like they're shooting about WCW. And they like to talk like they're shooting about fucking WWF and the shit they did with Vince, but without really saying Vince. Or, like, they just like to come out and say, like, you're insiders. We're talking shoot now. Like, this is real. Like, that other fakey shit we were doing before with, like, that was this is real. Like, you know, like when they talk when they like Jeff Jarrett comes out and talks to Sting but calls Sting Steve because now we're being real, you know, like. So Kev, I wrote this line down because he says, no, you know what? I'm good on a history level. Kill it. Thing is, Jeff, I've already come to my conclusion. I get it. I can deal with it. I don't know what he's dealing with. I don't know what he gets. I think they're arguing about how, like, Sting got suspended and how Kevin Nash is selfish or some kind of, like, locker room cancer. Like, he's... I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody... Jeff Jarrett starts shooting about how Nash hurt the company and betrayed Hogan and Bischoff by bringing Scott Hall and X-Pac in. He did that. And then Nash says, one day Jeff's 3 daughters are going to grow up and finally get that their dad is a selfish prick. And juggle that in your sleep. And I just wrote... I underlined... I don't know... I underlined, what the hell just happened? Because I don't know. Dixie's pacing around backstage, and Kurt walks up to her and asks what's going on. Dixie says that everyone has to have faith in her that this ECW thing is good for TNA. Kurt says that he hopes she knows what she's doing because those guys got a reputation. Of what? being old, washed up, injury prone, and lame? Yeah, they do that. Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. Really strangely, Jeff starts the match by rolling out of the ring to pander to the fans for like a full minute. And another really weird thing happens where TNA takes a phone call from Eric Bischoff where he takes like half the match explaining why he and Hogan haven't been around. And because it was like Hogan had back surgery and like 4th of July weekend and back surgery and fireworks. And then, yeah, he says he supports Dixie in any decision she makes since it's all for the good of TNA. I note that Samoa Joe has a really ugly purple bruise on his knee. That was weird. Match went to a time limit draw, which didn't make me nearly as mad as it probably should have, considering that TNA really loves really screw job finishes. Jeff rips his shirt off and attacks, but the ref refuses to let it continue. Jeff Jarrett goes backstage, bitching about Kevin Nash, about how he has a personal stake against Hulk and Eric. Dixie basically changes the subject on him and tells him to tell the locker room that the ECW thing is a good thing. And I swear to God, at this point, I thought the show was basically over. And then when I started to fast forward through the commercial break, I realized I just passed the halfway point, and I very nearly fucking killed myself. Matt Morgan versus Mr. Anderson. Anderson's got a new asshole shirt. He asks if there's any assholes in the building, and when they cheer, he says, well, he's the head asshole in charge. I so don't get this asshole thing. I don't get I don't get this babyface turn. This and Randy Orton, I don't fucking get it. They wrestled a really boring match. I've never been an Anderson fan. He plays possum, ducks a discus punch, and hits the mic check. And then, in a really weird fashion, Morgan, immediately gets up from the mic check and nails Anderson with that mic that drops down and, busts him the fuck open, really bad. I don't get who this was supposed to help. Anderson wins the match, okay, but... Beer Money versus Motor City Machine Guns in a street fight. Really good match. An awesome match, actually. Seriously, this is the best part of the show. When they turn some of the best tag teams they got loose and just have them beat the shit out of each other. It's wrestling! Really good spots included Sabin running for 40 yards and hitting a running dropkick into Bobby Roode's face. I said it was an awesome match. Felt a little rushed because I probably could have gone another 10 minutes and been really good. Brian Hebner took an amazing clothesline that caused him to somersault and kind of turn inside out. That was really cool. And almost immediately afterward, Earl Hebner ate a baseball slide to the face from Shelley, and it knocked out both refs because you have to knock out your refs in a street fight. Taz noted, no, they can do whatever they want. They could do whatever they wanted before this! It was a street fight, Taz, you fucking bald idiot! Beer Money steals it again with another beer bottle shot to the head after the Machine Guns had it won. Taz says something really weird about, the Machine Guns had it won, but if my aunt had a yam bag, she'd be my uncle. I wrote these words down. I don't know what it means. And yet it still makes more sense than the Kevin Nash promo. I wrote, if my aunt had a yam bag, she'd be my uncle. Even Dusty Rhodes, in all his decades of cracktastic bullshit rambling, has never said something as stupid as that. Devon confronts Bubba backstage. I noticed that Bubba's wearing an LAX shirt. LAX does not exist anymore. I don't know why he's wearing the shirt. I think he was just sifting around the t-shirt vendors and found the shirt that nobody bought and just put it on. Devon wants to know if the rest of ECW can count on Bubba having their back. Bubba says no, because he has nothing left to prove with those guys. We've done it all. I said, Bubba's entirely correct. Fuck ECW. Christie's backstage with Rob Van Dam. I really wish they started wrestling at this point, because for the next 5 minutes, it's really obvious that they're just killing time, because Rob kind of just talked for a very long time and didn't really say anything except how awesome ECW is and how he got started there and how it's awesome and how he got started there and how he's awesome. Oh, and he said he can't forget he's the champ and Abyss wants his title. How much you want to bet that Abyss will not get a title shot at One Night Stand coming up? Tanae and Taz talk again about what Dixie will say. I wrote, Jesus Christ. I wrote that 3 times. I said, Tanae looks pissed off and says that Dixie owes everyone an explanation. Taz looks confused. Dixie comes to the ring. I wrote, oh shit, there's like 12 minutes left of this show and it's all going to be Dixie talking. There could have been more wrestling. If it seems like I'm deliriously just in pain, it's because this show is stupid. This is the most pathetic thing. This could be the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in wrestling. This upcoming segment. Because Dixie says, she says TNA is all about the fans, and she knows that what she's learned over these years is that TNA fans love their hardcore extreme wrestling. Oi. So she calls the ECW guys to the ring. Tommy's hobbling the whole way, and Taz explains that Tommy tore his MCL in the brawl last week. And I'm like, great, he's not going to be ready for One Night Stands. That's joyous day. Your headliner is injured and he can't fucking move. I said Mick is wearing an awful leopard print t-shirt. Dixie says a really weird line that says, Hulk Hogan meant to the 80s what they meant to ECW in the 90s. And immediately, like, if it seems like I'm face palming, like, every single segment I read, it's because this fucking show gives me a migraine. They just compared Tommy Dreamer, Raven, and just... No. 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 No! No! I said, I'm amazed they're able to get away with mentioning ECW and airing all the ECW chants, and they're clearly marketing this pay-per-view based on ECW. Like, can they do that? I don't think they can do that. And for some reason, they keep hammering home that the ECW guys are faces because they don't do it for the paychecks. They do it for the love of the business and respect for the guys they're in the ring with. It's just really, really weird that ECW is the baby faces in this whole thing. And then they're like, they're not invading. And like, it's like they're painting the hometown guys as bad guys. Like, I don't know why you do that. Then they give the mic to Tommy. And here's where it fucking starts. Tommy, he says, TNA's the kind of place that makes stars out of unknowns and where legends go to reinvent their careers. When you invited me to Slammiversary, I got to feel TNA. I just thought that was a funny line. And I'm going to continue doing this because for the next 10 minutes, Tommy might as well have just gotten down on his knees, spread Dixie's legs wide, and just blown her in the middle of the ring. Because this was the most masturbatory fucking... just... It was the most pathetic... I can't even think of enough words to describe the brown-nosing, kiss-ass, full of shit promo that Tommy Dreamer cut about how awesome TNA is, about how they give new guys a chance, how they all do it for the love of the business and we have respect for the people, and then he starts weeping. And I got sick at this point, because this, like, I actually stood up and started pacing. I was so just astounded at the balls of, and how full of shit this promo was. I couldn't fucking believe it. Like, he starts talking about, he says, I finally got my closure when ECW finally went under. And then they brought it back. He says, like, they brought ECW back. I was forced to watch as all my friends and the people I worked with were turned into laughingstocks, and then they were turned into clown shoes, and I watched as one by one they were broken down and reduced to gimmicks, and finally I had to quit. And I would have joined earlier, but I had a family and kids to feed. Because I needed the money, but TNA's about the people. And they take care of people. This is not about an invasion. This is not about us taking over. This is about men and women who lost their jobs and their dignity. And then he starts pandering. He's like, this is about the fans who chanted. The fans who loved us, for my friends who lived it, and I just want to see, he says, this is where I said he might as well have just gotten on his knees, because he basically did here. He gets on his knees, and he begs. He says, I'm begging you, for one night, just one night, to take back our legacy, and make sure that our legacy is not destroyed. I beg you for just one night. It's so sad. I don't even know what to say. You know, I was an ECW fan. And I can tell that Dixie Carter doesn't get ECW at all, because she chalks it up to hardcore extreme wrestling, the kind of shit where, like, you know, it was endless chair shots and assholes with nails and 2x4s and cheese graters and stuff like that. I could tell she doesn't get it, because, you know, that was part of it, but it was just part. And, you know, the ECW had balls at one point. And that was the best part of it, was the fact that it had balls. It had talent. It doesn't have balls anymore. Tommy Dreamer, he lost his balls a long time ago. Now we got this broken down, weeping, pandering, filleting dickhead in the ring, talking about how big and mean Vince was, and how, you know, WWE didn't care about the business, or didn't care about ECW, didn't care about his legacy, and, you know, turned him into a laughingstock, and everyone was so mean to me. And ECW, I lost my legacy. And I just want to tell the fans how much I love them, and I never got a chance in the WWE. And you know what? I said this before, but ECW failed, and it failed big. And there's a lot of reasons why it failed. Had a lot of good points to it. Had balls, like I said, was very important. Showed us something we hadn't really seen before up to that point. And it was that underground guerrilla style wrestling that was really popular. It was an alternative brand that was bold, it was daring, and it had a bunch of really crazy motherfuckers doing weird shit. Unfortunately, it was very poorly managed. It was still really small, and to be honest with you, the hardcore gimmick was not enough to sustain it as a business. And that's why it went under, and it went under fast. It got bought out by the WWF because, believe it or not, they know how to run a business, and they do know how to book a wrestling show. And when I see what it's been reduced to, it's been reduced to fucking Tommy Dreamer, Stevie Richards, Rhino, and Raven. Only one of which, in the entire group, can still work. That's Rhino. And even that, probably a little debatable at this point. And it's been reduced to them begging for another one-night stand in Dixie Carter's ring. The promo was full of shit. It was entirely just... I can't even think of new words for how pathetic all this was, you know. I can't believe anyone's fired up to see this weeping guy pushing 40 promising us how extreme it's all going to be. Because, you know, when ECW was around, like I said, it had talent. ECW doesn't have talent anymore. ECW was about 15 years ago. And that's long over now. It's way over. And it really made a small promotion look even smaller. And it almost made me sad. You know, I mean, like I said, like if Tommy was weeping, I was pretty much already there because, you know, Tommy Dreamer likes to talk about a legacy a lot. And it's like, can you really see what they're doing to this legacy? Like, I would think that Tommy, of anyone, would be able to see the harm that just digging up this corpse and just kicking it a few more times is doing to his big legacy. And maybe he doesn't believe that. Maybe he just needs to collect a paycheck. You know, once again, like maybe you know, I was forced to quit and all this. And maybe he's just saying this because he wants to collect a paycheck, and that's kind of what Dixie wants him to say. Well, I don't even know what to add, but man. I'm really blown away by how small makes it all seem, you know, like and how it's really depressing how bad this show's going to be, because man, like you just look at the talent involved, you look at the wrestlers they managed to get. And I assume they'll get Sabu. And Sabu will fucking kill himself for this show. But it's not going to be good. I'll tell you that right now. And I don't know whether to applaud them for realizing that this invasion thing had no legs. I don't even know if it was a good idea that they called off the invasion and just made it a one-night stand type thing. I probably would have gone with an invasion, because at least you probably could have scraped together some ECW guys who could still work, unlike the Nexus thing. Like the Nexus thing, there's only really two guys in that whole Nexus that can work. The guy who does the 450, Justin Gabriel, and maybe Wade Barrett. I don't know. But like out of all those, there's like those exact two guys who are the only guys who can wrestle worth a shit. I'm pretty sure you could have found some ECW old guys to maybe carry it for a little while, the Dudley Boys not being least of them, but like, man. But I think they realized that like they were only really capable of like one show. And you know, so they call off this invasion. They abort the angle the day after it starts. And I guess my point is, why do they bother? You know, like was anybody really clamoring for the ECW reunion tour 3? I wasn't. And when Tommy Dreamer talks about getting closure at long last, I think everyone kind of got their closure from that one. And now Tommy, after getting his closure, wants to dig it all up again because Vince fucked him. Is that the story? Like, Vince fucked him, so he needs to reclose this thing? It doesn't make any sense. And it's completely out of place with storylines. It kind of interrupts everything. It's just... I'm sorry, guys. If it seems like... I actually have already gotten a bunch of emails from people who are like, why are you so down on this ECW thing, man? Look at these guys. I'm sorry. I don't want to be that guy who's like, they're old, they're broken down, and they can't wrestle anymore, but they are. I mean, you're talking about... these guys are athletes, okay? And athletes got a limited shelf life. Maybe... 5 years ago, these guys were over the expiration date. 5 years after this, especially Tommy, he was kind of busting his ass in ECW, the WWE ECW, long after that. But man, he can't do it no more. Yeah, TNA Impact sucks, and I think I'll simply close by saying this was probably the saddest episode of Impact I've ever seen, where I've seen bad episodes, but I've never seen one that just made me just shake my head and just made me want to dig out my old ECW tapes, just because I can't believe what they done to this. It's quite literally like just digging up a corpse and just fucking it in the ass. Watching Tommy Dreamer just humiliate himself, everyone who worked with him, humiliate the company. Watching TNA, that was the other thing. Watching TNA humiliate itself by basically surrendering to ECW and saying, remember how good wrestling used to be? Not like this shit. Let's bring ECW back. You know what I mean? Like how TNA even considers itself kind of an inferior brand. How it tries to, like Dixie comes out as we're trying to emulate ECW with this hardcore wrestling stuff we're doing. That's what we need to bring back, is that hardcore wrestling. You've got such talent. You've got these great wrestlers who you never let wrestle. Or at least not as much as they should. You bog them down with bullshit storylines. And then you put them back seat. You put them back of the bus to these washed up, broken down old farts. And who don't wrestle. Who by and large never wrestled. Honest to God, they pretty much took the worst of ECW in terms of the hardcore just brutes who hit each other with chairs and cookie sheets and cheese graters and stuff like that. Tommy Dreamer, Raven, Stevie, they had their place, but those were the geeks. They were the guys who were hitting each other with the sticks and shit like that, and it's just so not representative of what ECW used to be. So you've got these great wrestlers. You've got, Motor City Machine Guns. You got, AJ Styles. You got Samoa Joe. And they're like, you know what? This pay-per-view, you guys are benched. We're going to get these guys who made a living cranking each other in the head with chairs and basically just making a mockery of the wrestling business. And there you go. And that's kind of why ECW failed. Is because there was a lot of great wrestling to be found there. But in the end, it was a sideshow. It was a carnival for watching idiots like Sabu hit each other really fucking hard in the head with steel chairs and giving each other grade 3 concussions. And so, when you make it a blood sport like that, it's got novelty, but the novelty wore off. And that's the story of ECW. Loved it. Loved it back in the day. But I grew up. And I think everyone else did too. Apparently Dixie never did. So, That's ECW, folks. Enjoy your fucking pay-per-view, because it's going to suck.